Each year, NASCIO's annual conference brings together state CIOs and technology leaders to share insights of the most pressing priorities shaping government IT. This year's conversations covered a lot, from IT modernization and data governance, accessibility, AI, and the financial uncertainty facing many states. I'm Colin Wood, and joining me to unpack some of the biggest takeaways from NASCIO 2025 and talk about how vendor partners can help states navigate these challenges is Beth Howen, President of State, Local, and Education at NTT Data North America. Beth, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Colin. I'm really happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, let's start with the big picture. You were at NASCIO this year. What themes stood out to you in the hallways and on stage?
So what I think this year there was a lot of conversation. It really felt grounded in like pragmatic innovation. State CIOs are kind of past the hype cycle, so to speak, and the focus is really on sustainability, resilience, and measurable impact. I think from a big themes perspective this year, I think you've mentioned a few in your intro. Really, it's doing more with less because there's staffing and budget constraints this year, and so they're having to modernize operations in the face of these constraints. A lot of conversation about AI with accountability. How are states going to start using it? Everyone's really excited. Everyone really wants to dive into the use and the impact of AI, but want to make sure that governance and data integrity is front and center in the use. I think there was a lot of conversations about inclusion and accessibility this year, which is kind of a new topic at NASCIO, making sure that modernization reaches everyone. And I think, lastly, as always at NASCIO, a ton of collaborative conversations between states, between the private and public sectors. It's not about vendors delivering tools, but really how are we as partners co-creating long-term value for the citizens of the states across this country.
One of the threads I heard running through this year's conversations was the uncertainty around budgets. Some states are well off, while others are facing shortfalls, and overall, there's less federal support. How is that shaping how CIOs prioritize their IT investments, and where can the private sector help fill the gaps?
It's a really great question. I think budget uncertainty is really shaping the conversation, every single conversation in every single state, even those states who have more healthy budgets. I think some states are still benefiting from the post-pandemic surpluses that were created, while other states are really having to tighten their belts, especially when the federal support winds down or there's so much uncertainty around kind of the federal support. I think CIOs are becoming more strategic and more selective. They have money, but it's around investing in areas that show a clear ROI, an impact for their dollars, those things that are improving citizen services in particular, and streamlining operations. Every citizen across the country wants the Amazon type experience when dealing with city, state, governments. And so I think that's a real high priority for CIOs. We here at NTT Data can really help. We're working with states to optimize what they already have, modernize incrementally. I think in the old times, it was about modernization meant the big bang, rip out everything, put everything in new. And we're really trying to help them use what they already have, modernize incrementally, create shared platforms that drive more efficiencies for the states. The role of the private sector isn't to just deliver technology. It's really to bring a level of flexibility, a level of scalability and capacity to drive innovation where states kind of really need it most.
I also heard a lot of state CIOs talk about being more selective in their investments, and with IT modernization being so urgent right now, especially with their tighter budgets. From your perspective, what does creative modernization look like, and how can partners like NTT Data help states modernize when resources are so constrained?
I think it goes back to, for me, it's creative modernization is about rethinking how we go about that modernization. Again, it's not about ripping out old systems and starting from scratch. Those are really, really expensive propositions for states, but it's more about blending the modern technologies that we have, these modern capabilities with existing assets, using automation and low code and AI to extend the life and extend the value of what's already in place at the states. At NTT Data, we're helping agencies modernize one component at a time. Let's do it incrementally over time, guided by data, guided by analytics, and by the user needs or the needs from the states. That could mean introducing AI-powered workflows or migrating modular cloud architectures over that scale over time. But when budgets are tight, CIOs have to make really strategic decisions. So creativity comes from smart sequencing and rapid wins, being a little bit more agile in the way in which we modernize, delivering value early while keeping that long-term vision in our sights.
Agility is definitely key for CIOs. Another thing that they said was key at NASCIO was accessibility. And that's a major focus because of DOJ's upcoming accessibility deadline in 2026 and 2027. What are you hearing from state leaders about how to meet those deadlines, and how is NTT Data adapting to the DOJ deadline next year?
Yeah, so accessibility was a really hot topic this year at NASCIO. It's on top of mind for all of the state leaders, at least that I spoke to. You know, these upcoming deadlines are creating urgency, but they're also creating opportunity, right? And so leaders have to understand that it's not just about compliance, it's about making digital government truly inclusive for all citizens. I think the biggest challenges, you know, are around the scope and the readiness. Identifying every digital property, ensuring teams are trained, ensuring that integrating accessibility into the procurement and the design from day one. And so at NTT Data, we're working with states to assess their readiness. And I think assessing that readiness is a very, very time-consuming component. Doug Robinson gave us in the CIO survey some data around states' preparedness for the accessibility deadlines that are coming up. And you saw many of the states stated that they were in progress, not quite done. All of them have started something. Most of them sit in that in progress state. And that really goes around assessing their readiness, modernizing digital experiences, which haven't been in the past, and embedding accessibility into every phase of service delivery. We see this as a defining moment for our customers, a chance to make digital government more human-centered and equitable for everybody.
Yeah, that emphasis on accessibility definitely speaks to a broader goal in state government that we see of improving digital experience for residents. And that's an area where a lot of CIOs see AI and data playing an increasingly important role. How do you see AI and data enhancing user experience and outcomes for state and local agencies working with NTT Data?
Yeah, you know, AI is really the headline topic everywhere, isn't it? I mean, it's not just in government, it's being talked about everywhere. And I think what stood out to me is really the emphasis on responsible AI. States really want to take advantage of it. They really want to innovate. They understand the value and the impact it can bring, but they want to make sure that they're doing it safely and they're doing it transparently. We at NTT Data, we're helping agencies to take a governance first approach, making sure we are paying attention to their rules and their policies and their advisory boards, and building the data foundations and building those frameworks, and then the policies to make AI trustworthy. Once that's in place, AI becomes a really powerful enabler for the states. You know, chatbots and digital assistants improve citizen interactions, predictive analytics helping agencies allocate resources more effectively, AI-driven insights speeding up everything from benefits processing to public safety response. What's really exciting is that AI isn't replacing people, it's amplifying the human side of government, which is really wonderful. It's helping public servants work smarter, deliver better outcomes for the community in which they live and serve.
Well, NASCIO is always packed with a ton of new ideas and trends. Beth, thank you so much for joining us to lend your perspective on these topics.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate it.